I never thought I'd find myself in this position. I always considered my marriage to Emily strong, built on love, trust, and mutual respect. We had been together for almost 8 years, and for the most part, life felt pretty good. Sure, we had our ups and downs like every couple, but we always seemed to work things out. At least, that's what I thought. Lately, though, Emily had been acting differently. I brushed it off at first. She was busy with work and I was busy trying to climb the corporate ladder myself. But as weeks turned into months, I started noticing little things that didn't sit right with me. She began spending more time at the gym, which didn't raise any alarms initially. After all, who doesn't want to be fit? But the way she would change her clothes immediately after coming home, or how she would hop in the shower before I could even say hello, it felt off. Then there were the late-night phone calls. I'd hear her whispering, and when I asked who she was talking to, she'd always deflect with some excuse about work or friends. "You know how it is," she'd say with that sharp edge in her voice. "Just planning things for work, it's a lot of pressure right now." I wanted to believe her, I really did, but my gut was telling me something was wrong. The tipping point came on a Saturday afternoon. I was cleaning up around the house when I stumbled upon her gym bag. I don't usually go through her things, but curiosity got the better of me. I noticed a small piece of paper sticking out of the side pocket. When I pulled it out, my heart sank. It was a receipt from a dinner at a fancy restaurant just 2 days prior. The date was clearly marked and it was addressed to Emily and my personal trainer, Jake. A wave of nausea hit me. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How could she? I thought we had something real, something worth holding on to, and here she was lying right to my face. I thought of all those nights when I poured my heart out, all the times I asked her how her day went. Was she telling Jake about our fights, our dreams? My heart raced as I pieced together what was happening. I confronted her later that night. I was shaking and I had to take a deep breath before I could even say anything. "Emily," I started, trying to keep my voice steady. "I found something today." I pulled out the receipt and watched as her face went pale. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, my voice rising. "You went to dinner with Jake, my trainer. What's going on?" She stammered, eyes darting. "It's not what you think. We were just discussing workout plans. You know how hard it is to get fit." Her excuses tumbled out, but I could see the fear in her eyes. She was caught and the lies were falling apart. I had thought she would plead with me, maybe cry. Instead, she adopted a defensive stance. "Don't make this a bigger deal than it is. You're being paranoid," she shot back, her tone laced with anger. "Paranoid? I'm holding proof in my hand and you're calling me paranoid." I felt anger rise, a mix of betrayal and confusion. The confrontation spiraled into a chaotic argument. Emily started throwing accusations my way. "You've been distant, you've changed," she yelled, as if that justified her actions. I tried to hold on to my composure, but inside I was crumbling. After hours of back and forth, she finally admitted to the affair, but with an air of defiance. "It's not a big deal. It was just physical. I still love you." The words cut deeper than any knife ever could. How could she say that while betraying me? I didn't know how to process all this. That night I sat in silence, staring at the wall, replaying everything in my head. I felt like my world was shattering. I had trusted her, and now that trust lay in ruins at my feet. The emotional impact was overwhelming. It felt like I was drowning in my own thoughts, the betrayal suffocating me. Slowly, I began to realize I had a choice to make. I could continue to fight for a marriage that felt like it was built on sand, or I could take another route. As I struggled through those first few days, I began to think about how my life could change. What if I focused on myself instead? I asked myself. I wanted to find strength in this situation, not just pain. I decided I would not let this destroy me. It was time to take control back. I thought about the gym. I had always wanted to get in better shape, but I never had the motivation. Maybe this was my opportunity to find that motivation and to show Emily that I could rise above the mess we had created. And so I made a decision. I was going to get in the best shape of my life, not for her, but for me. I wanted to find out who I was outside of this relationship, and more importantly, I wanted to prove to myself that I could be better than this. That was the beginning of my transformation. I dove headfirst into working out, focusing on my health and setting new goals. It felt liberating to reclaim my power in this way. I was determined to not let Emily's betrayal define me. What came next would change everything. As the days turned into weeks, my routine became a lifeline. I threw myself into the gym with an intensity I never thought I had. I hired a new trainer named Mark, who was everything I needed after Jake's betrayal. He was tough but fair, and he pushed me to my limits in ways I never imagined possible. I started to shed pounds, gaining muscle and confidence at an impressive rate. The more I worked out, the more I realized how much I had neglected myself in the chaos of my marriage. Emily, on the other hand, seemed to be in denial. She would occasionally try to reach out to me, asking if we could talk, but my heart was still too raw to engage. I could see her trying to put on a brave face, but the tension remained palpable. She would comment on my progress, often with an edge of sarcasm. "So, are you trying to impress someone at the gym?" She'd sneer, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. Deep down, she knew that I was transforming, not just physically but mentally. I realized that I was no longer the man she had taken for granted. Social media also became a crucial tool for me as I documented my progress. I started posting workout videos and progress photos, and surprisingly, the support from friends and even strangers was overwhelming. I began to see comments from people who found inspiration in my journey, and it fueled my motivation even more. I was no longer just a husband. I was becoming a man who was reclaiming his life. But I wasn't just losing weight, I was gaining clarity. I started reevaluating my life, what I wanted and what I deserved. I began to go out more, reconnecting with old friends and making new ones. I found myself in a community of fitness enthusiasts, and these connections felt genuine. They encouraged me, shared their own stories of resilience, and helped me realize that I wasn't alone in my struggles. It was during one of these outings that I met Sarah. We were at a local health food cafe after a workout group, and I noticed her immediately. She had this infectious energy that drew people in. The moment our eyes met, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, a spark. She was bubbly and confident, a stark contrast to Emily's recent bitterness. As we started chatting, I discovered she had her own story of heartbreak, having come out of a toxic relationship herself. We hit it off instantly, and I found myself laughing and smiling in a way that felt foreign yet exhilarating. Sarah wasn't just beautiful, she was bright and thoughtful, and she seemed genuinely interested in what I had to say. It felt refreshing to talk to someone who wasn't wrapped up in the drama that had become my life. Over the next few weeks, we started spending more time together. Our hangouts turned into regular workouts, coffee dates, and deep conversations. Each moment with her felt like a breath of fresh air, and I started to understand something crucial. I wasn't just healing from Emily. I was rediscovering who I was and what I wanted in life. Meanwhile, Emily continued to reach out, trying to pull me back into her orbit. She would text, "Let's talk about us," or "I miss you," but I was no longer that man who would drop everything for her. One night she even showed up at the gym, clearly trying to catch me off guard. When she spotted me with Sarah, the look on her face was one of shock and anger blended with jealousy. It was clear she hadn't expected to see me moving on so swiftly. "Are you serious right now?" she snapped, storming over to us. "You're already with someone else." The accusation rolled off her tongue like venom. "Emily, it's not what you think," I said, trying to keep my cool. "This is just a friend." "A friend, right? You're just going to replace me like that?" She was practically shouting, and I could feel eyes on us. "Maybe you should have thought about our relationship before you cheated on me," I shot back, my frustration spilling over. The confrontation was tense, and Sarah stood there looking uncomfortable. I quickly reassured her, "I'm sorry about this, let's just go." As we walked away, I felt a mix of emotions, relief, anger, and a sense of finality. I had faced the woman who had deceived me, and I stood my ground. I realized I was no longer afraid of Emily, nor did I crave her approval. In the days that followed, I continued to focus on my new life with Sarah. Each moment spent with her further solidified that I was making the right choice in moving on. But Emily was relentless. She began showing up at places I frequented, trying to engage me in conversation, sometimes even resorting to guilt trips. "Remember the good times we had. Don't you want to try to work things out? Each time I stood firm, I would gently remind her of the truth. The affair had shattered the foundation of our relationship. I felt bad for the way she was struggling, but I couldn't be her emotional crutch anymore. It was during one of my workouts with Mark that I realized just how far I had come. I was lifting heavier weights than I ever had before, and I felt strong. Mark, noticing my progress, said, "You've really transformed, man. It's inspiring to see you on this journey." His words hit me hard. I had taken control of my life in a way that I never thought I could after the betrayal. I was moving on, and I was doing it with grace and strength. I was ready to continue my journey of self-discovery and growth, and I was excited about what the future held. Life was beginning to feel like something I could grasp rather than something that slipped through my fingers. I was shedding the remnants of my past and stepping into a new chapter. But little did I know, Emily wasn't finished with her attempts to win me back. The real test was yet to come. Just when I thought I had navigated the storm of emotions surrounding my marriage and was moving forward, Emily upped her game. I was becoming more entrenched in my new life with Sarah, and I was reveling in my transformation. I felt confident, fit, and ready for whatever came next. But Emily was relentless. One evening, while Sarah and I were enjoying dinner at a cozy little bistro downtown, my phone buzzed with a message from Emily. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. The message felt unsettling, a mix of desperation and anger. "I know what you're doing, and it's pathetic. You'll see, you'll miss me when I'm gone." It was a bizarre threat, almost like she was trying to assert herself in a situation she had already lost control over. I put my phone down, trying to shake off the feeling. I didn't want to let her words ruin my evening. I glanced up at Sarah, who was animatedly discussing her plans for a fitness competition. Seeing her enthusiasm was refreshing, and for a moment, I allowed myself to forget about Emily. But the next day, she escalated things. I received a call from our mutual friend, Jake, the same friend who had introduced us to one another. He sounded uneasy when he spoke. "Hey man, Emily has been telling people strange things about you. She's trying to paint you as the bad guy. Have you talked to her?" I felt a wave of irritation wash over me. "I don't want to talk to her, Jake. She made her choices." "I know, but she's upset." "You have to understand she's not handling this well," he replied, sounding almost sympathetic towards her. I took a deep breath, letting the frustration settle. So what? Should I just roll over and let her manipulate the narrative? I'm moving on and she needs to respect that. "Just keep it civil, all right. For the sake of your friends," Jake said before hanging up. I couldn't shake the feeling that Emily was trying to turn friends against me, twisting the narrative into a story where I was the villain. It was so typical of her, deflecting blame and crafting a narrative that painted her in a better light. I chose to focus instead on my life with Sarah, but the nagging thought of Emily's manipulation lingered in the back of my mind. That weekend, Sarah and I decided to take a short trip to a nearby lake for a little getaway. It felt right, just the two of us, enjoying life without the heavy baggage I had been carrying. The fresh air and beautiful scenery were rejuvenating. We spent our days hiking, swimming, and laughing until our stomachs hurt. But it was during one of our hikes that I received a call from Emily that sent everything spiraling out of control. I had left my phone in the car during our hike, and when I checked it afterward, there were several missed calls and a barrage of frantic texts. "You need to call me back. I'm serious." An uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. I called her back, hoping to keep it brief. "Emily, what do you want?" "I need to talk to you about something important," she said, her voice trembling. "Can it wait? I'm busy," I responded curtly. "No, it can't. It's about Jake," she said, and my heart dropped. "He's been telling people that you're not the good guy in this, that you were always distant, that you drove me to cheat." I felt a flash of anger. "That's ridiculous. Jake has no idea what happened between us. This is all on you. Don't you see? You need to clear your name before everyone believes him. You have to fight for us." "Fight for what? You've already betrayed me." I exploded, frustration boiling over as I struggled to maintain control over my emotions. The call ended in a flurry of accusations and half-truths. As I hung up, my heart raced. Emily was grasping at straws, trying to manipulate the narrative yet again. I felt a mix of anger and pity for her. When I got back to Sarah, I had to open up about what was happening. Emily's trying to turn people against me, especially Jake. She thinks if she can paint me as the bad guy, it'll somehow absolve her of her own actions. Sarah listened intently, her brows furrowed in concern. That's really low. I can't believe she's doing that, she said, her voice calm but firm. I know, right? I guess I shouldn't be surprised. She's always been good at playing the victim. As we sat there, I realized how much I appreciated Sarah's support. It made the sting of Emily's betrayal feel less potent. I'm just so grateful to have you in my life right now, I told Sarah. I'm here for you, she replied, offering a reassuring smile that warmed my heart. But the peace was short-lived. Emily's next move came out of nowhere. One evening, as I was winding down after a workout, I received a message from Emily that left me speechless. It was a photo, the kind of photo that would haunt anyone. It was a picture of her and Jake, clearly intimate, posted on social media with the caption, "Found my happiness again." My heart dropped. I felt a mix of rage and sorrow. She was trying to provoke me, flaunting her new relationship in my face as if to say, "Look what you lost." I showed it to Sarah, who was equally shocked. I can't believe she's stooping this low. It's like she's trying to get a reaction out of you, she said, her expression reflecting disbelief and anger. And that's when it hit me. This was no longer just about Emily's betrayal. It was a battle of wills now. I knew I had to stand firm, not just for myself, but for the future I wanted with Sarah. I refused to let Emily dictate how I felt about myself or my choices moving forward. I took a deep breath, absorbing the realization that I had come too far to let her win. I was no longer that passive husband. I was a man who had fought his way back to life, and I wasn't going to let her drag me back into the chaos. The stakes were higher than ever, and I was ready for whatever came next. I would not allow Emily's actions to define my future. I was moving forward, and nothing would hold me back. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. It felt like Emily had unleashed her full arsenal of tactics to pull me back into her orbit, but instead of feeling trapped, I found myself growing stronger and more resolute. With each passing day, I learned how to navigate the minefield she had created, and I leaned heavily on Sarah for support. Together, we maintained a sense of normalcy while Emily's antics played out in the background. My social media presence continued to grow, and I focused on the positive feedback I received. I shared my fitness journey, and people responded with encouragement. My transformation was evident, not just in my physical appearance but in my mental state. I was learning to love myself again, and Sarah was a big part of that. Her positivity and enthusiasm inspired me to keep pushing forward. We spent countless evenings working out together, and I cherished every moment, but Emily wasn't ready to let go. She began reaching out to mutual friends, spinning her narrative and trying to rally support. I received calls and texts from people who had heard her side of the story. "You should really talk to her, man," one friend said, sounding concerned. "She's in a dark place." I felt a mix of frustration and anger. I can't just forget what she did. She made her choices, and I'm not going to be the one to fix her problems, I replied firmly. "Just think about it," my friend said hesitantly, but I could hear the hesitation in his voice. I knew. He was trying to help, but I didn't want to hear it. I had made my decision, and there was no going back. I was moving on, and I wasn't going to let Emily drag me back into her chaos. As time went on, I started feeling the weight of Emily's actions less and less. It was empowering to find that I was finally reclaiming my life. I focused on my training and my budding relationship with Sarah, and I could see a bright future ahead of me. But then came a turning point that I hadn't anticipated. One evening, I was at a coffee shop with Sarah, discussing our plans for the upcoming weekend. We were excited about attending a local fitness expo together. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a notification. I glanced at it, and my heart sank. Emily had tagged me in a post. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. It was a long-winded message filled with half-truths and sob stories about how she was struggling and how she missed me. There was even a photo of us from happier times, her caption reading, "Sometimes we don't appreciate what we have until it's gone." My mind raced. I felt anger rising within me, but I also felt a tinge of sympathy. Yet sympathy wouldn't save me from the emotional turmoil she was trying to create. I quickly called Sarah over to look at the post, and she read it with a mix of disbelief and anger. "She's trying to manipulate you again," Sarah said firmly. "I know. It's infuriating," I replied, rubbing my temples in frustration. "It's like she thinks I'll just come running back. Don't let her affect your peace." "You've come too far," Sarah reminded me. I chose to ignore the post and refocused on my plans with Sarah. We spent the next few days together, enjoying each other's company without letting Emily's drama intrude. But inside, I knew I had to set a boundary. The games had to stop. The situation escalated rapidly when I decided to untag myself from Emily's post. I didn't need that negativity in my life, and I certainly didn't want it on my social media. I felt a surge of empowerment as I hit unfollow on her page and blocked her number. It felt liberating, like shedding a toxic weight that had been holding me down. I was taking control of my narrative, but the moment I blocked Emily, she retaliated. I received a barrage of messages from her friends, all on her behalf. "Why did you do that?" One of them texted, clearly trying to confront me. "You should really think about how this will affect her." I ignored them. I wasn't interested in being put on trial by Emily's friends. I had made my choice and I stood firm in it. As the expo approached, Sarah and I grew more excited. We had been training hard, and the anticipation of showcasing our progress together was motivating. The day of the event arrived and the energy was electric. We mingled with others in the fitness community, sharing tips and swapping stories. It felt like we were part of something bigger, and the bond between us deepened. That evening, as we celebrated our day, I was taken aback when I ran into Jake, my former trainer. He approached me with an air of awkwardness. "Hey, man. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything that happened. I didn't realize Emily would take things that way," he said. I was surprised by his sincerity. "Thanks, Jake. It's been a tough time," I replied, unsure of how to proceed. "I just want you to know I didn't mean to get in the middle of things. I thought I was helping her, but I see now it was a mistake," he told me, clearly regretful. I nodded, appreciating his honesty. "It's okay. We all make mistakes." As we chatted, I sensed that he genuinely wanted to mend things. I realized that while Emily had tried to manipulate our friendship, Jake had no ill intentions. It felt good to clear the air. But as the night wore on, I could see Emily's silhouette in the distance, standing with some friends. I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. I had worked so hard to move on, and I didn't want her negativity to invade this beautiful moment with Sarah. "Let's get out of here," I said to Sarah, who picked up on my unease. We decided to skip the after-party and go for a late-night walk near the lake. As we strolled, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The moonlight reflected off the water and the world felt right again. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked, sensing my tension. "Yeah, just Emily's presence at the expo reminded me of everything I've been through. I can't keep letting her affect my life," I admitted. "You've come so far. You deserve to be happy, and I'm glad we're in this together," she said, wrapping her arm around mine. Her words brought a smile to my face. I knew I was on the right path, and deep down I felt a sense of hope. I was leaving my past behind, and for the first time in a long while I felt like I could finally breathe. But Emily wasn't done yet. I would soon find out that she still had one last trick up her sleeve, one that would test everything I had built. After the expo, life began to feel almost normal again. Sarah and I settled into a comfortable routine filled with workouts, laughter, and shared goals. I was genuinely happy, and the shadow of Emily's betrayal felt like it was fading. I thought I had closed the door on that chapter of my life, but just as I was enjoying my newfound peace, Emily launched her final assault. It was a Wednesday evening when I received an unexpected knock on the door. I opened it to find a familiar face, Jake. He stood there looking somewhat sheepish. "Hey man, can we talk?" I hesitated but ultimately let him in. We settled into my living room and I noticed he looked more serious than usual. "I wanted to come by because I've heard some things," he began, running a hand through his hair. "About what?" I asked, bracing myself for more drama. "About Emily. She's spiraling, man. I think you should know she's been saying some pretty wild stuff about you and Sarah, he said, his tone laced with concern. My heart sank. What kind of stuff? She's telling people that you were the one who pushed her to cheat, that you were always distant and never supportive. She's painting herself as the victim, Jake explained, sounding genuinely troubled. I took a deep breath, feeling the old anger resurface. I can't believe she's still trying to manipulate the situation. I thought I had put that behind me. Look, I know you're trying to move on, but if she's spreading this story, it could affect your reputation. People might start believing her, Jake warned. I felt my blood boil. I had worked hard to rebuild my life, and now Emily was attempting to destroy it all over again. What does she think this will accomplish? I shot back, frustration spilling over. I think she thinks she'll get you back if she can make you look bad, Jake replied. I stood up, pacing the room. I'm done playing her games. I can't let her dictate my life. She's the one who messed up. Then do something about it. Don't let her win, Jake urged, his voice firm. As the conversation continued, I felt a fire ignite within me. I realized that I couldn't just stand by and let her manipulate the narrative any longer. I would have to confront her directly. That night, I spoke with Sarah about everything Jake had shared. I need to confront Emily. I can't let her drag my name through the mud, I told her, determination fueling my words. I understand, but be careful. She's unpredictable, Sarah reminded me, her brow furrowed with concern. I know, but I refuse to let her control my life anymore. I need to take a stand. The next day, I reached out to Emily, my heart pounding as I typed out the message. We need to talk. I know what you've been saying, and it's not okay. Her response was immediate. I don't want to talk to you. You don't get to dictate how I feel. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation. I'm coming by. We need to sort this out. When I arrived at her apartment, I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. I knocked firmly, and she opened the door, her expression a blend of surprise and defiance. What do you want? She snapped, crossing her arms. I want to clear the air. I'm tired of the lies and the manipulation, I stated firmly, stepping inside. She rolled her eyes. Oh, please, you think you're some kind of victim here. You were distant. I had to seek comfort elsewhere. Stop. You can't keep spinning this narrative. You made a choice, an awful one, and now you want to blame me. I responded, my voice rising. I only did what I had to do. You were never there for me. She shot back, her tone defensive. Emily, this isn't about blame, it's about accountability. I will not allow you to drag my name through the mud. You're trying to convince everyone that you're the victim here, and it's not going to work, I asserted, feeling my anger shift to resolve. She took a step back, her eyes narrowing. What do you want from me? I want you to stop talking about me and stop spreading lies. If you want to move on, then move on. But don't come after me in the process, I said, my voice steady but firm. For a moment, silence hung in the air. I could see the anger and hurt on her face, but there was also something else, a flicker of recognition. You think this is easy for me, she said finally, her voice softer. I don't care about your feelings right now. You made your choices and I have my own life to live. Just leave me out of your drama, I replied, feeling a sense of empowerment as I stood my ground. As I turned to leave, I felt a sense of liberation wash over me. I had confronted her, laid the truth bare, and for the first time I felt unburdened. Over the following days, I noticed a shift. Emily's posts became fewer and less aggressive, and I could sense that her hold on my life was finally loosening. I felt lighter, and the anger that had consumed me was replaced with a sense of peace. I decided to focus on my relationship with Sarah. We were growing closer, and I cherished every moment we spent together. I started to see a future with her, one that was bright and full of promise. But just as things began to settle, I received one last message from Emily. This time it was different. I'm sorry for everything. I know I messed up. I just wanted to say goodbye. Her words were surprisingly sincere, and they caught me off guard. I felt a pang of sympathy for her, but I also knew I was done with that chapter of my life. I responded with a simple, I wish you the best. As I closed my phone, I realized I was finally ready to move on completely. I had learned valuable lessons through this ordeal about strength, resilience, and the importance of setting boundaries. I was no longer the passive husband who allowed betrayal to dictate his life. I was a man who had fought back and emerged stronger. The path ahead was clear, and I was ready for whatever came next. I was finally free. The days that followed my final encounter with Emily felt surreal. I had finally freed myself from the emotional chains that had bound me for so long. I was no longer that man who would internalize the pain and betrayal. I had stood my ground and reclaimed my life. With every passing day, I became more focused on my future and the relationships that truly mattered. Sarah and I continued to blossom together. We spent weekends exploring new hiking trails, experimenting with healthy recipes, and supporting each other's fitness goals. I felt as though I was finally living the life I had always envisioned, one filled with laughter, health, and genuine connections. She brought out the best in me in a way I never thought possible. One evening, we were sitting on the porch of her apartment, watching the sun set over the city. The sky was painted with hues of orange and pink, and the atmosphere felt magical. I turned to Sarah, who was smiling softly, and I felt compelled to speak my truth. You know, I really appreciate everything you've done for me, how you've been there during this chaotic time. I don't know where I would be without your support. Sarah smiled, her eyes warm with understanding. You've done the hard work too. You fought for your happiness, and I admire that about you. I felt a rush of gratitude. It's been a journey, that's for sure, but I'm finally in a place where I can think about the future, and I want you to be a part of it. Her eyes widened slightly, and I saw a glimmer of excitement. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I took her hands in mine, feeling the warmth between us. I am. I see a future with you, and I want to keep building something special together. Sarah's face broke into a radiant smile, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of joy. I'd love that. You make me so happy. In that moment, I knew I wasn't just moving on from my past. I was building something beautiful from the ashes of betrayal. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had led me to someone who appreciated me for who I truly was. As the weeks went by, Emily faded into the background. I still heard whispers from mutual friends about her attempts to stir up drama, but I paid them no mind. I had learned that I couldn't control what people said or did. All I could do was focus on my own happiness. I was determined to keep my life drama-free. One day, out of the blue, I received a message from Jake. Hey, I just wanted to check in. How are you doing? I considered his words for a moment. Despite everything that had happened, I felt a sense of camaraderie with him. I'm doing well, actually. I've moved on and started a new chapter with Sarah. Glad to hear that, man. You deserve to be happy. I'm sorry for how things went down, he replied. I appreciated his honesty. Thanks. I've learned a lot through this process, and it's been a journey of growth. We ended up chatting for a while, reminiscing about our time training together and sharing laughs over some of the ridiculous things I'd done while working out. It was a refreshing change of pace, and I found myself grateful for the opportunity to clear the air with him. As summer turned into fall, I found myself in a new rhythm. I was thriving at work, continuing to set and achieve my fitness goals, and deepening my relationship with Sarah. We went on weekend trips, celebrated small victories, and supported one another through everything life threw our way. One evening, as we were preparing dinner together, Sarah looked at me thoughtfully. You know, I've been thinking I'd love for us to take a trip together, something to celebrate how far we've come. I couldn't help but smile at the idea. That sounds amazing. Where do you want to go? How about a week at the beach? Just the two of us, soaking up the sun and enjoying some time away from everything, she suggested, her eyes sparkling. That's perfect. Let's make it happen, I replied, feeling a rush of excitement. Planning the trip together made me realize how far I had come from the chaos of my past with Emily. I was no longer trapped by old memories or insecurities. I was ready to embrace the future with open arms, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace and contentment. As we finalized our plans, I couldn't help but reflect on everything I had learned through this journey. I had faced betrayal, heartache, and emotional turmoil, but I had emerged stronger than ever. I had learned that it was okay to prioritize my own happiness, and that I deserved to be with someone who truly cared for me. In the end, I realized that sometimes, the hardest experiences lead to the most beautiful transformations. I had taken my pain and turned it into power. My past with Emily was behind me, and the future with Sarah was full of promise. As I looked at Sarah, smiling and laughing as she stirred the sauce in the pan. I knew I had the support I needed to keep moving forward. I was ready for whatever life had in store, because this time I was in control. My story was my own, and I was finally the author of my happiness.